Hello, friends. I'm no therapist, but I'm your host, Stephanie Goodman. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman of faith. Often friends ask me how I have a successful marriage while blending families and staying optimistic in life. This podcast features people with real-life stories about success in relationships and triumph over trial. Do you live with some kind of physical pain to the point that it affects the other parts of your life? At the risk of sounding like a commercial, I want to introduce to you Shelby McHugh, who decided to do something about her physical pain and make a career out of it. Sound wave therapy is a different kind of practice without the traditional adjustments that tend to be abrasive. I'll let Shelby explain it herself. Well, Shelby, I'm so excited to have you in our home today. Thank you for taking the time to be able to come and share your story with us. I know we've been talking about this for a little bit. I want to introduce you to my audience. Tell me a little bit of where you grew up.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Where I grew up is a tricky question. Both of my parents were enlisted in the Air Force. So I'm an Air Force brat. So I'm not really from anywhere, but I've been everywhere.
Okay.
So I've spent a lot of time. Every few years we move to a new location. So home is basically wherever my family's at.
Was that hard growing up?
Definitely has had its challenges. But I've been super blessed with the opportunities that we've been given because of that.
Are you close with your family?
Extremely. I think just the fact that we've had to move around so much, we've just learned that we can really rely on each other.
And where do you fit in your family?
So I'm the oldest,
Okay.
and I have 2 younger sisters. So there's 3 of us.
That's so good. I'm the oldest in my family as well. And there's a lot of responsibility for the oldest, especially when a family hasn't ever experienced certain parts of growing up. You hold that responsibility as the oldest.
Definitely. Especially with my dad, he was deployed a lot. So as soon as another parent is leaving to go do their responsibilities, being the oldest had challenges having to step up to cover the grounds and make sure everything still goes running smoothly.
I bet. And that responsibility probably fell on your hands, I would say, a little heavier than some others.
I'd agree with you. Yeah, but I think I didn't know any other way. So obviously you make it work.
Did you have a town that really felt more like home than others?
I don't think so. I always knew that wherever we moved wasn't going to be permanent. So I never had a mindset going into it as this is not my home. It was always just, this is another place in our journey.
Sure, I can appreciate that. And since growing up, do you have a desire to find a home?
I do. I know usually when you're young and growing up, everyone's like, don't settle down, go see the world. But being 18, I was like, I've already done that. So I was like, I want to have a place to call home.
Yeah.
I want to have a house and grow up there. So being an adult now, I'm still appreciative because I'm still in different places of my journey. Utah being here is another step, and I know it's not going to be permanent, even as an adult, knowing that. So it's interesting to look forward to see where am I going to end up.
Do you feel like the experiences in life from your past prepared you to be stronger in the future?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I think just going through those trials of life at a young age has done nothing but help me now.
So tell me, what is it that you're doing now?
Okay, so now I'm about a year out of graduating from my Doctor of Chiropractic degree. So I am here in Utah working in a clinic and serving this community and seeing patients, which has been really exciting.
Which is how you and I met.
Exactly, yes, which I'm so grateful that we did.
I'm a firm believer that everything that happens is manifest through our spirit, through our energy, through our body. I was taught as a young girl that disease is dis-ease in the body, and I've never forgotten that. So when I'm feeling ill or I'm feeling particular pain in my body, I'm asking myself, what is it that I'm experiencing, and how can I best support myself through this situation? We met in a wellness clinic called Sound Corrections here in Orem. I was introduced to, we call him Dr. Beetle, James Beetle, because my daughter was suffering from her knee hurting her.
Okay.
She was in junior high. She would step and wince, and I didn't know for sure what level of pain she was experiencing, but I did notice that it was happening for a while. And so I decided to open up Google and find out who did chiropractic services and what they cost. Well, the word sound corrections really stuck out to me. And so I looked them up. I talked to the receptionist and said, I'm just gathering information. Tell me what it is that you do, and then I'll get back to you. After hanging up with the phone with her, I knew within every part of my being that that's where I wanted to go. I didn't even call any other chiropractic clinic. I just went right back to them and said, I'm really interested in your services. He brought my daughter into his office, and I'd never seen the technique that he used with looking to see how my daughter's atlas was aligned. And I was a forever firm believer of that. And I don't want to take over that conversation. I want to turn...
You'll explain it very well.
I want to turn the time over to you. I want to hear the story of how you got on this journey, this wellness journey, and how it's changed your life.
So I used to have really bad post-concussion syndrome. So throughout growing up, I was an adrenaline junkie, to say the least. So with that, I kind of put my body through stresses that necessarily could have been too much, which resulted in I've had 6 concussions to date, documented ones. I'm sure there's a few bumps and hits along the way that could be classified, but I know I've had at least 6 major ones. The first one was the worst, where it completely knocked me out, and I don't remember how it happened. I just know I was hit, and then I woke. I was snowboarding. Something happened, and then I remember coming to when I was in the ski sled going back down the mountain. So there was a whole period of time that I can't remember to this day what happened.
Wow.
So that was a huge trauma to the brain, especially during developmental ages. And then from there, it was another concussion, and then it was another concussion, and because I was already experienced a few, you're more susceptible to getting more from the smallest things that wouldn't necessarily jostle things around too much, but because I've already been putting my brain through those traumas, it was so susceptible to more.
That is so fascinating.
So with that, I ended up having severe side effects that I had no control over. So I was experiencing dizziness and vertigo. I had headaches daily. It got to the point where I couldn't drive anymore, because when I would look into my blind spot, my eyes would start to go black. So just by turning my head to check my surroundings, my body started shutting down because it wasn't able to do normal things now.
Wow.
It ended up to continue to regress to the point where I started to develop a stutter and just talking in my speech. I started to develop tics to the point where my head would just be making certain movements and everything was involuntary. So my body was completely shutting down. I had a hard time going to school, couldn't focus, started failing classes. Life was not enjoyable at that period of time.
I can't even imagine being that young and feeling your body shut down when you're supposed to be at a place of invincibility, right?
Yes. So that was during undergraduate where I couldn't even get out of bed to make it to class because the world around me was spinning, that I couldn't even walk. I didn't want to do anything. But it's one of those things where you're like, well, this is my new normal. This is what my life's going to be. And I thought it was going to be like that forever. It wasn't until in just normal conversation with people in class when I was able to go that somebody suggested I see a chiropractor. Because they were like, I had headaches. Maybe it might help with one thing out of the list that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a chiropractor, and they weren't advertising themselves as anything special, but I'm a chiropractor and I can help you. And so I went, and after my first adjustment, I wasn't dizzy for about 2 hours afterwards, which was monumental for me for not being able to look straight for days. And I kept going back, and it started with, after an adjustment, it was 2 hours, and then it would progress to 3 hours. And then there was one day where I wasn't dizzy for the entire day. And I was like, holy cow, this is what I should do with my life, because it gave me back mine. Oh. Just by having that day, just a 24-hour period of not being dizzy, it led me on a whole different trajectory of what I thought I was going to do. It's emotional. So I wasn't healed completely. It was just an alleviation of symptoms for a small period of time.
It's a Band-Aid.
But I ended up finishing school, and then I got into a chiropractic program. And I went there. So I started in school, and I was still having all of these symptoms, but it was enough that I could at least get through the days now. And it wasn't until I was in school, when you meet all these fabulous doctors and professors and like everything is at my fingertips, that once one of my professors, they were like, you still have all of these things going on and you're in this renowned school that helps people with these issues? And I was like, I guess so. But I thought nothing of it. I was like, I'm okay, but I'm still like having to sit out of classes at certain points because my eyes weren't able to focus. And then she tried to help me, and after the first adjustment, it wasn't as great as she wanted it to go, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to describe it. It just wasn't as well as she thought it would go. And she was like, you know what? I'm not the person for you, but I know who is. And I was like, this is weird, because you meet everyone who's like, I can fix all your problems. Right, and she was like, I'm not your person, but I know somebody who could help you.
That's integrity.
She is an amazing woman. So then I met another doctor who was like, I do things way differently. It's a little hard to wrap your mind around, but she was like, I think this is going to help you. And after my first adjustment with her, it was very different. It used a sound wave, and it used X-ray mapping and building a map of what the structure of my body looked like so that we could figure out where it has gone so that we know how to put it back.
So what was your first adjustment like? Was it more physical? Was it?
My first chiropractic adjustments were physical manipulations, yes.
Okay. So, because I've been in chiropractic since I was 6th grade, right? Where they take the body and they adjust it by popping it, basically, and then also grabbing the neck and popping the neck, right?
Yes.
Is that the chiropractic
Yes.
experience that you had? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then this professor introduced you to someone that used sound chiropractic.
Yes.
So they weren't as physically...
Correct. So they didn't use their hands to do a manual adjustment. They used an instrument that produces a sound wave that when your body is set up in a certain position based off of those x-rays, that the sound wave, when targeted properly, when it hits your atlas, that's the name of the first bone in your neck right under your skull, when the sound wave hits your atlas, and then that is what starts to make the bone move. So it's a different concept, but in having experienced all sorts of different types of chiropractic adjustments, that was the technique that worked for me. There's so many, it's a spectrum of chiropractic techniques, and there's some that work great for others. There's some that even got me into chiropractic school, and then there's some that really helped with the symptoms that I was experiencing.
Okay.
So after that first adjustment that I received from her with the sound wave, I wasn't dizzy for, it was about 7 months. I had an entire 7-month period where I wasn't dizzy, and all the other symptoms that I had during those 7 months started to dissipate. So it started slowly. It wasn't this overnight miracle.
Okay.
But it was the small baby steps, the small progressive moves forward that kept giving me hope and encouraging me that my body is now able to handle the stresses of life that I'm putting it through. So my headaches started to go away. My dizziness really started to go away. And other things started happening in my body that I wasn't even aware of at the time. But my menstrual cycle started to become more like normal. Ugh. I don't know how to describe it, but actually becoming regular.
Okay.
Which I never experienced before.
Wow.
And I was like, so 1, my symptoms are going away, but 2, my body is able to physiologically work better. And it was at that point that I was like, okay, this is the type of chiropractic that I want to practice. Okay. This is how I want to help patients because of how profoundly it helped me.
And when we're in your presence, we can definitely feel that. Like you have a passion for the people that you're interacting with. You have genuine love in knowing what you're doing is on that path of helping them to become healthier. Because you've experienced it yourself. That is incredibly powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes.
So how can others benefit? How do you feel that, is this atlas therapy or is this sound correction? What would you call this?
So it's very hard to put one word to it. It's just because there's a lot of techniques that focus around the atlas. Some use their hands just for the atlas. Some use a sound wave technology to correct the atlas. The only thing I would like to call it is just atlas correction. Get your atlas checked out, make sure it's in a good position, and if it's not, have somebody fix it. There's so many ways to do it, and it's so beneficial for your body when it's structurally in alignment, how well things work afterwards.
So take me through, if you can, a first visit at Sound Corrections. What am I to expect?
Sure. I usually just really like to connect with a patient. I know it's just so many people when they go to the doctor, it's not always a pleasant experience. So I really just like to take the time to actually connect with the person on just a human level of like, yes, there's a doctor-patient relationship, but I also want to be your friend and support you through what's going on. Because at least for me, when it's so hard when you're having problems and you're frustrated with where your body's at, and you get to a point where you can't do anything about it and you start seeking help. So, and that's challenging for people. Mm-hmm. It's a hard step to move forward where it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need somebody who can help me.
It's very vulnerable space.
Exactly.
To be in that place of, I don't have the answers anymore. Come help me. That's amazing that you recognize that and respect that.
So the professor that gave me that Atlas correction adjustment, she learned it from Dr. Beadle and his colleagues. They were just a group of people who they want nothing than to strive to be better. They want to be better people. They want to be better doctors for their patients. So they created this technique that just envelops all of that. And so because I received that adjustment and it really started changing my life, I was leaning in the direction of, okay, I need to surround myself with these people who want to be better, not just for themselves, but for their communities. Mm. So that's how I ended up meeting Dr. Beadle. And once I was finishing my program, I was asking myself the questions of, what am I going to do now? Where am I going to go to practice? How am I going to take everything I've learned and really start putting it to work? He was like, those are all great questions. Why don't you come work for me? And it was just one of those things where doors were opening and I had to go through them. So that's what brought me to Utah, so that I was able to work with Dr. Beadle in his clinic. He was experiencing a huge influx in his clinic and he was like, I need help. So I was really excited to come here to be able to do that, and that he also gave me the amazing opportunity to do so. So that's really what led me here and on the path of giving the care that I received.
I definitely feel a difference in sound corrections in their office. I feel like I'm part of a family.
Good.
You know, we come in and you are genuinely interested in what's happening in my life. Sometimes you remember details of my life that I don't even remember. But also I know that if there's something that I can help you out with, that I'm definitely open and there for that. So it's a friendship with benefits, I guess you could say.
On a professional level.
Yes. That's right. Professionally. Benefit professionally. And I walk out a different person. I remember when I experienced how truly my body expressed the emotions through the stress that I was experiencing. And Dr. Beadle's intuitiveness really was a saving grace for me at that time. I didn't realize that I was not hiding my emotion very well. It was during a time that we had a friend pass away unexpectedly. And I didn't realize that I was taking it that strongly. I was in the office for my daughter to be able to get her adjustment, and Dr. Beadle picked up on my energy and just asked me, how are you doing? Are you okay? And I said, I've got a real stiff back. I've kind of been hurting back here. And he offered an adjustment to me without needing me to pay for it. And that was a blessing too, because our financial situation at that time was restricted and tough. That's part of the reason why I didn't seek the adjustments myself, because I wanted to make sure that my daughter was taken care of. The fact that he offered it to me, but he knew immediately that I was going through the trials of a death because of the energy that was tied up in my lower back. That was incredible and just eye-opening to me to put a finger on what I was experiencing internally was also expressing itself through my body. Have you experienced healing in relationships, maybe in financial? Have you seen this happen for the clients that you have coming in?
All the time. All the time, people come in with, it could be low back pain, or they're just like, I have tensions in my shoulder. And it's one of the, especially as women, that's where we hold our stress, is what it seems to be, is where everyone's like, oh, I just hold my stress in my shoulders. And so right there in that statement, it shows that our emotional and mental state can show up physically in our bodies. And so a lot of the times, the reason isn't, oh, I have like a shoulder injury. It's mentally where your body is, it's focused on something else that it forgets how to take care of itself.
Oh, I love that you said that. That is profound.
It's so common for men, for everybody, that if they're having an issue in life regarding anything, like you said, like financial status, or maybe their struggles at home or with their marriage, like we can see that show up in the body. Obviously, it's in different certain places, in each person it's different, but it manifests somewhere else because it gives your brain something else to focus on than what you truly are trying to avoid.
That blows me away because there's so much truth to that. I can feel that. But how often it is that we get ourselves so busy with things that we don't focus on what it is that we really need to focus on. And our body says, wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah.
We got to pay attention. I'm crying out. We need love right now.
So usually what happens is we check the spine to see if it's in an alignment or not. And if it's not, and we correct the vertebra into a better position, most of the time the body then has all the endorphins and the signals going through that, like, hey, this isn't a problem area anymore. And then people realize, oh, I don't have pains here. But then they resurface what their pains truly are, which is most of the time an emotional connection to something going on in their life. And then at that point, with their body being able to function better, they're more able to cognitively focus on the true issue, which is going on. So I've had many people come in with back aches, neck aches, and then once they're corrected and fixed, they say, hey, I'm now able to pick up my grandkids. I was able to dance with my husband in the kitchen. They don't tell me like, oh, my back feels better. They say, I was able to do this emotionally connecting thing that I wasn't able to do before. And so it's not just fixing the problem, like the physical issues we have, but increasing the quality of somebody's life.
It also aligns you so that you can see clearly what it is that your soul needs in nurturing within. You become kind of a counselor, don't you?
Oh, yes. I'm definitely way more of a therapist than I am a chiropractor at some point.
You get shared all the goodies.
Yes.
You probably know some of your clients better than their own spouses know them, right?
I can't confirm nor deny the things that happen.
But that says a lot about you as well, because that means that you have created a space where people can feel themselves. They can feel open and vulnerable and trusted. And I think that is so powerful.
Thank you.
That is how you strengthen others. That's your gift.
That's what I try to do.
We are so lucky to have you and to know you. So we were talking about how health and relationships can really be manifest through our bodies. And I was wondering, through different seasons, for instance, maybe a new mother, how can she benefit from these services?
So I have a huge passion for prenatal and pediatric, and that's one of the main reasons that brought me to Utah, is because Dr. Beadle expresses those same passions. And so I took the opportunity to really learn from him and how to really help that demographic of people. It's really important. Everyone knows during pregnancy, you're so hypervigilant about what you're putting into your body. How are you going to make the best home for baby to grow and develop in?
Right.
So having a chiropractor on your birth team really during that gestational period is so beneficial, because you want the mother's body to be in the best optimal place it could be in, because that's a lot of mom's energy is going to baby. But if mom doesn't have enough energy, or their body's not fully ready to do all of that, it can make things hard, especially during the pregnancy. Is already hard to begin with. But then it just adds those extra things, and then people are just like, oh, it's pregnancy.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, yes.
So we see a lot of pregnant moms in the clinic, and it's just once their body is in an optimal place where it's able to really take care of itself, that it can truly flourish. So, and then especially with a growing baby inside, it can alter the pelvic area. And I mean, we want mom's pelvis and that environment to be in the best position, because that's baby's home for 9 months. Mm-hmm. So you want them to be comfortable too. So we're caring for mom so that she can care for her baby. So it's really exciting to see just them be in a comfortable place. And so then they're not having the emotional struggles that go with pregnancy, because it's hard.
The body does change. I do remember physically feeling when my hips were separating and that sensation. And I think, being able to have prenatal care during that time would both be so comforting, because you realize you're not alone, and what you're going through is natural, but also here's some support in being able to help you to not have to, as you said, endure that pain and be able to function.
Yes, most definitely. I just want moms to be able to function during pregnancy, because sometimes they get to a point where they're like, oh, I'm just at the point where I'm just sitting down doing nothing because that's all I can do. I'm like, you can do so much more though. And then it's one of the main things holding them back is they're just like, everything hurts. And it shouldn't be that way. Your pelvis is supposed to move and shift, but if it gets stuck, then you become miserable. Mm-hmm. So by making sure there's still movement in that area it's so beneficial, so that they can still be able to function while they're pregnant.
Right. Yes. And it helps the baby to be healthier and happier as well. Love that. So do you do infant adjustments?
Yes. Usually we like to, especially a mom who's been through care with us, we just want to double check them, make sure baby's okay. They morph and shift in order to enter this world, and we just want to make sure that everything's in a good alignment as it's morphing and shifting back, so that they can grow to be healthy kids without any of the issues.
Do you feel that this has been beneficial for maybe colic symptoms, or?
When babies are babies, the only things you're worried about is, are they eating, are they pooping, are they sleeping?
Right.
So, and if a baby's experiencing discomfort, it's because we know something's wrong, but babies shouldn't be experiencing discomfort, right? They should be the best human they are right when they enter this world. So if they are experiencing colic or reflux, we have to look to the body, because that's where the problems are starting. And most of the time, just making sure that their body is in a proper alignment so that they can grow to be fully functioning, because if they start with some dysfunction, it'll stay there for the rest of their life.
Oh.
So you want to make sure that they're able to grow and function properly, just so that they can experience life without things that set us back.
Yeah. I know for me personally, I've come in with a very foggy brain, sometimes a headache, and I too carry most of my stress in my shoulders and in my lower back. I think that those are my two problem areas. But after being able to be visited with you or Dr. Beadle, and you guys find spots that I didn't even know were sore until suddenly I'm feeling that adjustment gun I don't know what you call it.
It's called an activator. It's an instrument
An activator.
that we use.
That's a much better word than
that other
than gun. But I am so impressed with the adjustments that you're able to make and find in my body. Like I said, you find places that are sore that I didn't even know were sore. And suddenly after experiencing that adjustment, I can see clearly, I can think clearly. So I can imagine what that does for a mom or for an infant. Or, even in my stage of life, and I can't even believe it, I am a grandma. And I know that I wake up sore from bed more times than not lately. And I know that that's just a natural process of my body maturing. But I love that I have support through that. And a lot of the times I may be experiencing pain and discomfort that I really don't have to. And I feel like visiting the sound corrections has given me more insight to my health and given me the gift of being in tune with my body. I really, really appreciate the services that I get from sound corrections. So this is a shameless plug for sound corrections. How can we hear your story? How can we stay in touch with you? If we're interested, if my friends are interested in maybe seeking some of the solutions that we've talked about, how can we reach you?
Sound corrections, it's right here in Orem. We're open Monday through Friday. You can reach the office. You could just Google Sound Corrections Chiropractic. It'll lead you to our website, to our phone number. On the website, it goes into a little bit of detail of the services that we offer in the clinic and what that looks like. We have several providers in the office as well. We're all trained exactly the same. We practice the same. So that's a benefit for people like you who've seen Dr. Beadle, who've seen myself. We just want to give the best care to the patients in this community. But I'm always there.
I ask my friends, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
My advice would be that I know that it's a hard journey of figuring out how to be happy when things feel like they're holding you back. Whether they're physical things, emotional things, it's hard. But my advice would just be to keep pushing and keep searching for the things that are going to help you so that you're able to get through it. Because you will.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm excited that you are here with me today. It's been so wonderful to go down that journey of your healing experience and also just opening yourself up to what your calling is right now on this journey and being able to be a helping hand.
I'm so happy to be a helping hand.
If you've enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, share, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. Please comment because I would love to hear about what you think and what you want to see in the future. I'm no therapist, but I am your host, Stephanie Goodman.